Let me get the record. Um, let's yeah let's spend like 5 minutes talking about Friend of the Devil first, just so you have one real easy one that you can run with.
Okay.
And what happens there is it's the descending G major scale starting on the fifth string. Sorry, on the fourth string. Where is G on the D string? Right there. Yeah. Okay.
On the D string,
Yeah.
well, G would be the fifth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And and that's what you're going to do is just the whole bass line is going to go straight down the scale. G, F sharp, E, D, C, B, A, G. Do that. Yeah. And so for the first four bass notes, the G, the F sharp, the E, and the D, the chord that you'd strum, you're only going to strum notes above the bass notes. So you're never worried about stuff that's happening like underneath there. So the bass note's always going to be the lowest thing we hear. So all we need there at the beginning is the G in the bass and the high G up here with your first finger.
Okay. So the high G. Oh,
Yeah, there.
yeah, yeah.
And so basically we've got a bass note and like a pair of eighths. Then F sharp in the bass. Then for the E in the bass, what we do is slide this finger down to the second fret and use your fourth finger to get the G back on. Then D in the bass. Now for the C, we go to a whole C chord. Yeah. And just keep the bass working its way down. Then to B,
Okay. So
and now back to a G chord for right there, full G. Yeah. So that's the whole thing.
okay. So
Then slide.
then slide and
Yeah. Yeah. And then just repeats. Right. And then when it goes into the chorus, so it's just two of those as a verse. So it's going like, I laid out from Reno, I was trailed by 20 hounds. Didn't get to sleep that night till the morning came around. D, set out running, but I take my A minor. Friend of the devil is a friend of mine. Again, if I get home before daylight, I just might get some sleep tonight. And then a little walk down from the D as if it's going back to G. Bass note's just heading down from D. But keep as much of the D chord on as you do that so you keep strumming it. Almost like Needle and the Damage Done. And then an A in the bass.
oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Now, but what then the kind of twist there is it doesn't land here because that takes you back to another verse. So it goes. And whenever you start that run with the G and the bass up here, really important because a lot of times you got to get there fast. Like in this case, you're coming from the D. Make sure you go get that bass note first before you worry about this.
yeah.
You know. And the only other thing that happens in there is there's a bridge. Jeez, blanking out. That goes, got two reasons why I cry, wage lonely night to see. First one's named Sweet Anne Marie. She's my heart's delight. Back to D. Second one is Prison Babe. Sheriff's on my trail. A minor. And if he catches up with me, C. I'll spend my life D. Jail. And then to the next verse. Got a wife in Chino, babe, and one in Cherokee. So with our little 5-minute tutorial on that, that should be enough for you to figure out that whole song. Maybe even just by listening to it and trying to play along with them. I can't remember how fast they do it. Sometimes you hear this really fast bluegrassy. Other times you hear it very relaxed. But some people will play it. And I can't remember if the version on American Beauty is fast or slow now, because you hear different. Sometimes when they play it live, it would be relatively slow and things like that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to think of. There's something in my recent YouTube past where somebody plays this, so I'll figure
Oh,
that out. Yeah,
okay.
it comes up because the words, the words and all are sort of coming back to me.
Yeah, it's a great. The story is great. Spent ran into the devil. He loaned me 20 bills. Spent the night in Utah in a cave up in the hills. That's one of them. Ran down to the levee, but the devil caught me there. Took my $20 and vanished in the air. Each verse has got it's a cute little quirky thing. And the one I just sang, got a wife in Chino and one in Cherokee. First one says she's got my child and it don't look like me. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah. That's all. I just thought of what it was. Now I know what it was. It's on Howard Stern, um, who's I can see him, Berkeley. Um, Adam Duritz. Um,
oh,
um, what's his name? What's the name of the band?
Green Day was
No,
it?
not Green Day. No, um, Counting Crows.
Oh
Counting
yeah,
Crows, Duritz, and he's in what's one of those Howard Stern videos? It's very well done.
yeah.
And so Howard Stern's asked him, "Is there any song that you guys could just come up with and play, um, just because you just like messing around with it?" And that's the song he plays.
Oh, cool.
And actually, now I remember, you could see the guy who's playing the guitar. You can see him doing exactly what we're talking about here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it's actually good. Okay. Okay. Great. That's in the bank. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Um, so with Ripple, I think the first thing I want you to try to do is figure out the chord progression just by listening to it. Okay, I mean we haven't done this in a couple months. Back to our ear training stuff. Um, I'll listen to it in just a second to make sure it's not in a weird key. It's gonna be totally normal.
Okay.
Let me dial one up here just for a second. Okay, find those notes. Bum 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 bum. Perfect. Okay, so we're in the right key. What chord is that even starting to look like? If you've got your second finger there on the B,
Uh,
that first note.
oh, right here.
Yeah.
Um,
And the first couple notes were what? It went bum 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 bum.
okay. It went B, C, D.
Yeah. Okay. So when it got to D, that note is held for a while, right? I mean, it's like that. That's the melody note. If my words did flow, right? I mean, that's
Uh,
so we need a chord, even if we don't know yet what key this is in. We need a chord that has a D in it,
okay.
and the obvious choice would be try a D chord there. But before you do that, play that little melody, do 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 do, and then strum the D chord and see if it sounds like that fits.
No.
It's absolutely not a D chord,
No. It's
right?
not a D chord.
Okay, but it has to be a chord that has a D in it.
Yeah.
So what are some other choices?
Could be a G.
Okay, how's that sound? Play again.
That's a possibility.
What do you think?
Um, it sounds like the bottom half of it, but not the top half.
Okay. Um, so what? So in with when we tried a D chord, we had the chord that had D as the root, right? And now
Right.
with a G chord, D is what part?
Well, D is the fifth.
Okay. And one thing is, if that note is the root or the fifth, either of those chords could be major or minor.
Right.
In other words, G minor would have a D in it too.
Yeah.
So, does that sound any better?
Yeah.
Okay. Or the D could have been minor. Okay. Now we also have a possibility, couple possibilities for a chord that would have D as the third.
D is the third.
How could we
Okay.
solve that problem?
Well, if D is the third, we would have, let's see, we could have a B.
Okay, specifically, which B would have D as a third?
Which B would have
Or
D?
B what?
Okay. Are we talking about B minor?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure would be. Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And so it would be, so D is definitely the third of a B minor chord,
Yeah.
right? Now, but with it being the third, it could also be a third of a major chord. So what major chord would have D as the third? This is trickier.
E flat.
Very good. Yeah. Okay, that engineering background saved you. No. But yeah. Okay. So my point there is that when we're looking for a chord that has any given note in it, X,
Yeah.
it could be the root, the third, or the fifth.
Right.
And if we're only considering temporarily, if we're only considering major and minor chords, there are two of each of those. There are two that'll have it as the root, two that'll have it as the fifth, and two that'll have it as the third.
Right.
As far as the root and the fifth, it's the same chord, G or G minor,
Right.
or D or D minor.
Right.
But with the third, it's two different chords because the third has to be further away from the root in a major chord.
Right.
So right there, when you had the B minor,
E flat.
B minor, D is the minor third from B,
Right.
but the chord that would have it as major would have to be a half step lower than that to make it the major third.
Right. Okay.
Okay, good.
Um,
Okay, that's the end of our math lesson for today, I think. But still, okay. So one of those six chords is the right chord in this case.
Right.
Okay, and it's G. Can you hear that G chord now that it sounds? I mean, when we played some of the rest of them, it's like it was obvious that can't be right. And even when you first played D, it was like, well, that just doesn't sound like the song either.
Yeah.
You know, the B minor and the B flat are even going to be weirder. So the whole song is in the key of G, and all of the chords are in the key of G. Oh no, it uses one chord outside the key. Typical of a lot of Grateful Dead songs. Well, not so much, but this one, yeah, you're gonna see G's and C's and D's and the minor chords in G. Maybe, probably not all of them. You know, um,
I'm only getting C's and G's here.
you've got it exactly right so far.
Okay.
You just stopped before it was about to change.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now I got to think about what happens when. Okay, that's all repeats the same thing.
Yeah. So how long do you think it's going to stay on C? Start again from the G and like hum the melody and see when you think something else happens. So what happened? Yeah. It doesn't do the exact same thing twice, but what you just did was the first half of it twice, and the second half is a little bit different.
Okay.
So let me just hum the melody for you.
Okay.
Okay, so you had the first part exactly right. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Right, so that ending of the second half is a little different.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
but it
So
does start off the same. I mean, it starts with the same.
let's see when we go to that. And so we're going to no.
If you could find the note you're going to be singing right there, da 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 da.
It's B.
Okay, what are you going to use for a B?
B. Okay, so if it's B and it's not in G,
Well, we don't know that it's not G.
oh, oh, no, it's G.
It's G.
It's G.
Yeah. So don't jump to conclusions like that. Like we didn't need to look at the. Well, it wouldn't have hurt. Actually, what are the rest of the chords in the key in the first place? What are all the chords we're going to consider?
In G?
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about? Okay, so G is the one, and I just have to think through this.
Just go straight through the scale. What would step two be?
Oh, G, G, A.
And what kind of chord is on two?
It's a minor, A
Right.
minor.
Right. So that's the best approach here is just take it step by step through the scale instead of trying to think what are 1, 4, and 5. It's like you got to go through them all because we really want a list of all the chords.
Okay, so we're going from G to A minor to B minor to C,
Mm-hmm.
to C, C major, to D major,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're going to E minor,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to F sharp, E minor, diminished,
Yeah. How would you play F sharp diminished?
F sharp diminished.
Because I know you know the rest of those chords.
Yeah, I know the rest of those. So F sharp. I could play F sharp here.
Yeah. Yeah. Diminished chords are generally played in only one of two different shapes, and they're not really related to the E and the A families.
Yeah, they're in that interesting.
Right, right. Can you remember what that little
Yeah,
configuration was?
yeah, that's it's something.
That's close. It's what I call it's a parallelogram.
Yeah,
It's two.
that's what I was thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. It's more like that, but your first and second fingers switch or should be on your first finger should go to the fourth string, and then your second finger's at the same fret on the second string,
Yeah.
and then the other two are at the second fret. Yeah, that's the shape. That's the diminished shape. No, no, something's wrong. You should be alternating strings from the first fret to the. Yeah,
There we go.
yeah, that's the diminished shape. And all you have to do with that is make sure that one of those notes is F sharp.
Okay.
You got an F sharp in there right now?
Um, no.
Okay, so move it until you have one.
Okay, I can move back to here.
Sure. Yeah. So that qualifies as F sharp diminished. And again, technically, to be real precise, this is a diminished seventh chord, not just a diminished triad, and that's what makes it this movable shape where any one of the notes can be the root. So this is actually four different diminished seventh chords. Every one of those notes, it could be called a D sharp diminished, and again, it's really diminished seventh. It's not. So when we talk about diminished chords, we rarely play just a diminished triad, just 1, 3, and 5. There are times, but it's almost automatic that when something calls for a diminished chord, they mean this diminished 7.
Okay.
And what will happen is, so we've got four notes that are all a step and a half away from each other.
Okay.
Even the seventh back to the root is a step and a half. And that's why this chord is sort of circular, meaning if we call D sharp the root, we'd have F sharp in there as the third.
Okay.
And then we'd have A in there as the third, and then we'd have C natural in there as the seventh.
Uh-huh.
And so if you move this up to where the F sharp is on the fourth string, slide it to where you've got an F sharp on the fourth string now.
Um, F sharp on the fourth string would be here.
Yeah. You have all the same four notes you just had back at the first fret, just in different places.
Okay.
Yeah. And so many times when a thing calls for a diminished chord, the person playing it might do play it like in four different places up the neck to kind of rank up the intensity and the tension.
Okay.
And I just did a lesson on because of the get back thing. Oh, all through the days, I me mine, I me mine, I me mine. All of dawn, do 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 do. Now, when they finally recorded it, what happened next was a little unusual. They went to a D minor chord, and the melody went do 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 do. They had this little ascending before it landed on an E chord,
Yeah.
but and this is a great scene in Get Back because George and Ringo, I think, are the only ones there early one morning. Not early; it's like 11 o'clock is when they would usually like show up to work. But and George comes in and is showing Ringo, and somebody else is there, but I think John's not in there yet. But anyway. And he shows him. He says, "Hey, this is what I put together last night," and it's that song. It's "I Me Mine," and at this point he's playing a diminished chord instead. Da 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 da. He uses diminished chords in there, and he could have done. And then it's this other really cool part. Anyway,
Yeah.
really cool tune. Okay, enough about diminished chords because and they don't get used in Ripple at all.
Okay, so there's
Okay.
okay. All right, I don't have to
But
worry about that.
okay, so for practical purposes, you've got those six chords to consider: the
Right,
three majors and the three minors.
right.
And a minute ago, we found that the note we were looking the note you would be singing that we were looking for a chord for was a B.
B, right,
And so now we're looking for a chord that had B in it, but what other chord? And now we're going to do that within the context of just the key. Like a little while ago, when we started this mess, um, we went through like all the possible chords that had B in it. Oh no, we did it for D. D was the note we were looking for at the back then, right? And we ended up with like six possibilities, two each
right,
that had it as root, third, and fifth. As far
right.
as the key goes, that's going to limit it to just three chords at the most. Well, so what are the three chords then in the key of G that would have B in it?
The three chords that would have B in it. Okay, well, it's not A minor, or yeah, it's not A minor.
Okay.
G, yes. A minor, no.
Okay.
Uh, B minor, no.
Wait, what note are we talking about?
Oh, we're talking about B. Yeah,
Right.
so there is a B right here.
Yeah. Yeah. So B minor would tend to have a B in it.
Yeah, yeah. Just the name would suggest it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that's one of the who's buried in Grant's tombs questions.
Right.
Um, so
Isn't the answer like Grant and his wife? Aren't there two people there? I don't know.
probably is. I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so C doesn't.
Right.
Uh, D doesn't.
Okay.
Uh, E minor does.
Yeah. Now, so a little bit more direct path to that
Uh-huh.
would be if we're talking about note X and we're looking for the chords that have it in it, well, chord X is going to have it in it as one chord's going to have it as the root.
Right. So,
That would be where we should start. Is that okay? We're talking about B. What chord's going to have B as the root in this key? It's B minor because B is 3.
right.
Okay. Well, then now we're looking for the chord that would have it as the third. Let's start working our way through there. So if we now say B is 3, how do we find the root? How do we find 1 from that?
We just back up.
Right. So we just go down a third
Yeah.
to whatever note is that, and there we have the chord that has it as 3.
Right.
And if we do that again, we'll get to the chord that has it as 5.
which is E.
Right. Yeah. So that's the quicker path to solving really for any note. If it turns out that it's note 6 in the key,
Mm-hmm.
well, chord 6 is going to have it. And then chord 4 will have 6 as the root. I'm sorry, as the third.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And chord 2
I see.
will have that as the fifth.
Right.
Okay? So because that's going to be some of how you're going to figure out some of the rest of this song is you're going to figure out, oh, this is the note that I'm looking for a chord for, and what are my choices? Now, in a few cases, you'll only have two choices because I've already told you we're not going to use the diminished chord.
Right.
So chord 7, so like if you're looking for what has note 4 in it, 4 would have, chord 4 would be 1, chord 2 would be 1, would have it as the third, and now we're down to chord 7 would have it as the fifth, probably not gonna go there.
Right.
Okay, so so there's a couple of notes. Note 2 would be the other one that is not gonna have three possibilities, but it would. So chord 7 we would rule out, but that would mean that what other chord would have 2 in it?
What other chord would have?
Note 2 in it.
Well, note 2 is A
Okay.
and thing. So, and we started from. I'm sorry, I lost the question.
So we're looking for what other chords would have A or note 2 in it.
Besides A minor.
Right, besides chord 2. So chord 2 is one of them.
Chord 2 is one of them.
Okay.
And so chord 7.
Right. So 7 would have 2 as the third.
Is the third. So we
Okay,
want
so we're not gonna
to do
consider that probably, but then what else?
5.
Right. So note 2 is in chord 5.
Right.
And I'm kind of harping on using these numbers rather than the letters because this is universal in every key.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what key we're talking about, right?
Right. All right.
So if you land on note 6, and you can think, okay, it's either chord 6, chord 4, or chord 2.
Yep.
I mean, that was quick, but
Yeah.
it's so okay. So we just got to the spot in the song where we were on the long C, but in the second half it's not as long. It's got like another. It's do, 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 do. And then we're at da, and you found that note da. That was the B, and
Sure.
and so you tried a G chord there. You know,
Right.
after first thinking that G wasn't that we might have needed something different. So you didn't actually try the G chord till I said don't rule it out,
Right.
right? But when you can hear it, it goes to G there. Da, that's it. Now play the next part of the melody. Da 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 dum. So we need a chord for that note. Can you hear that? That's where we're going to have a change there.
Yeah, that's our A right there.
Okay.
We
So
for the A, so we know it's not. We know it's not the E minor diminished, and so we're back to the where it's the fifth, and it's the fifth 5.
okay. So what chord would that be?
So 5 in this case is D.
Okay. So can you hear where we are? Does that sound like the right chord?
Yeah, it does.
It does. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So right there, we had that melody that went B da 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 dum da 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 dum. And now find the next couple notes if you can. Okay. And that's the end. Okay.
Yeah.
Probably when you got back to there, we're going to be on what chord?
G.
Right. But we're not there yet. There's like there's something else in there, right? I mean, we got da 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 da. Now we don't have what's happening here yet. Da 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 da. Okay, so we got to have something else in there, and you could just randomly try some of the chords in the key and see if it fits. Like if you strum a G and then a D and hum that part of the melody, and just put a chord in there. See if you can find something that works.
Okay.
So strum the G,
Okay.
or what is okay. Or what's the melody there too? The melody's a little more vague here. Is kind of why I'm sort of beating around this bush. There's a lot of different ways it could go. So which of those notes seem like they might be the notes we need the chord for? Like what was the one of the first notes you hit for a long time? Accented maybe.
A.
Right, and that we had the chord for. That was the D chord.
Right.
So it's the next one we're looking for.
That's a D.
And what happens to that D right away? What's the next note?
The next note is E.
And which of those notes gets more emphasis, do you think? The D or the E?
The E.
Right, because the D is kind of quick. Da 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 dum. Right, something like that. Yeah. Now what? So aside from the E, what else did you have? What else? What'd you follow the E with?
With the G.
Okay. So do we have something that has an E and a G in it?
An E and a G in it. E and a G, A minor.
Maybe. What part of A minor is E? Oh, wait, let me back up. Or go ahead, answer that question first.
What kind of?
What part of the chord is E? Why is there an E in an A minor chord?
It's the fifth.
Right. So what would that... Now back to the question I should have asked first. Back up even further. When we were talking about one specific note and looking at the different chords that would have it in it, we kind of went at this methodical approach of, well, what's going to have it as the root, and then what's going to have it as the third, what's going to have it as the fifth.
Right.
But if you're given two notes, and we're looking for something that has both of those notes in it, you have to look at the relationship between the two to see what two parts of the chord they could be. If they're both in the same chord, which we're not even guaranteed that. It might be that we have to pick a chord that either has E in it or has G in it.
Right.
But what's the interval between E and G?
Third.
That means they're going to be in a couple of chords together. Because they could be... You with me?
Yeah.
Now, right there when you came up with A minor, they could be in A minor 7, because if E was the fifth, G would have to be the seventh. Because they're a third apart.
Right.
So E and if you think about what you have to do to play an A minor 7 is you have to put a G in it.
Right.
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 Minor 7, though, we were talking about.
Oh, here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so anyway, E and G are the fifth and seventh of an A minor chord, of an A minor 7.
Okay.
But that means the E could also be the third and G could be the fifth of something,
Right.
or E could be the root and G could be the third.
Right.
So when you have two notes, if we're only talking about triads and not expanding into seventh chords yet, if you have two notes that are a third apart, there's two chords that have them. They're the third and the fifth, or the root and the third.
Or the root and the third.
So So what would they be the root and the third of? What chord?
Well, the root and the third of. Now I'm upside down.
Yeah, I didn't mean to turn this into a trick question.
Yeah, I know. This feels upside down. How could it be the root and the third? You got E and G. Well, E. It could be of an E chord. Yeah.
Kind of, and we still with respect to the key we're in.
Oh yeah, that's not in the key. E
But
minor.
what is?
Minor. C
Sure.
minor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So E minor is E and G and B, right? So there we go. That's what I mean. So right there we solved. So E minor is absolutely a chord that has an E and a G in it.
Right.
But there's another chord then that would have E as the third and G as the fifth.
Right. And that would be E as the third would be C.
Yeah.
Yeah, C.
Because our C chord would be C, E, G.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So now let's play this phrase again. Remember, and it went from G da 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 to D, and then either E minor or C might work there. And try them both and see what you think. Can you hear where we are? That's our D chord.
No. C. It's C.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
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 So that's what we have in this second part. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Now, So that whole section, what I would call the verse, that is the verse to this song,
Yeah.
um, only uses those three chords, G, C, and D.
Yeah.
And we kind of took a different approach to having you figure this out, by a little more scientific or mathematical, right?
Right. Right.
But if I had just said, "Hey, go listen to the song," you probably would have figured it out in about a tenth of the time that we just spent doing this, because you could, or if I just played it for you and you just listened to it once, you'd probably, I know you're getting pretty good at hearing 1/4s and 5s and things like that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of their songs are really, really good for this type of harmonic ear training, meaning hearing chord progressions.
Okay.
And they do some really unusual things in some other ones. They use chords that shouldn't necessarily go together. This one doesn't. So this is a good one to start with. And so that's the assignment, I think. First of all, figure out the chord progression.
Right.
Then figure out the melody. Then see if there's a way to kind of incorporate the two to play. And a lot of times when you're playing the melody notes, they come in little flurries, and then there's a long pause. And during that pause, you're just going to strum the chords. Something like that.
Yeah.
And you can obviously listen to their recording of it, because in the beginning, that's kind of what they do. They pick out the melody and kind of strum through it.
Right.
And then so I guess I'm kind of suggesting first do as much of this as you can before you look at my lesson on it.
Okay.
Which we could sort of use that as the answer sheet or something. But I do have the whole thing tabbed out, and it's always hard. I really prefer to have people not try to look at it from the tab, because it's got some of the some of the strums are in there sometimes where you hit certain strings and things like that. It's like it's too detailed,
Yeah.
and getting kind of anal about how does this note fit in?
Yeah.
It's a very flexible song, and the melody that you pick out doesn't have to be note for note, syllable for syllable played, with what he would sing. Like I think when we even heard the very introduction a minute ago, right? The first words are "If my words did flow" or something. But probably at the very beginning of the song, it might have had not all those repeated notes.
Yeah.
You can. So you were really just trying to outline the melody rather than get real specific, because every verse has different numbers of syllables here and there and things like that. So it's anyhow. You think you got enough to work on with that?
Yeah. So I should probably find the original recording.
Yeah, and that's from their album American Beauty. So yeah. The other thing I could do right here, especially at the end of this record, since we're recording this, I could strum through it, without video or something, so that you could hear the changes.
Yeah. Do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do that. Okay. So, do 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 do. We already got this part down, but I'll do one verse and a chorus. Okay. Do 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 do. Where there is no pebble tossed, no wind to blow. Do do do. Do do do. That's it.
Okay.
That's the whole song.
Okay. Okay.
So even the chorus you could hear is not. I mean, it had a couple of new things in it. The chords moved a little quicker, but it
Nice.
shouldn't be too mysterious.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Last thought, another song that crossed my mind that we might want to put on a front burner.
Hmm.
I don't know if we've ever talked about that. Amy, Pure Prairie League.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And we haven't talked about it, but I know the song. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, if you want to try like a razzle dazzle introduction, that gets heavier into like the bluegrass world of that little melody I just played, right? Something like that. Okay. Well, anyway, just another piece of ear candy that you can mess with a little bit or
Okay.
listen to, and we could keep kind of on a. So
All
this
right.
is not this is a little different from the country world you were going into, but it's kind of like in the country rock world,
Oh yeah,
that
yeah,
we.
yeah. This is great. This is great.
Okay.
Let her go.
Okay.
So okay. Well, I got